I'm getting a lot of queries about pleaching trees, both from my clients and from people who've been watching the YouTube videos and they've seen them in lots of gardens I've designed. Well, apparently it comes from the French, the word to pleach, and it means really just interlacing or plaiting the branches to form hedges or arbours. So that's the historic meaning, but really what everybody in the trade refers to as pleached trees are trees like these around me, which I've done here, and they are just basically hedges on stilts. Now sometimes you see pleached trees and they've got much more defined horizontal branches. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct tiers, or however many tiers. These you can't really see that now. You could when I trained them years ago. And so those, when you see the distinct tiers, are called espaliers. And sometimes you see espalier fruit trees and the tiers start just off the ground. And sometimes you see the espalier tiers and they're up on a strong clear stem, and then they're above that. Both of those are in the trade referred to as espalier. Here I used them because I wanted to screen the view of the extension to the cottage behind me, over on the left hand side. Now that we didn't own originally, and they could see into our garden and I could see into their big bedroom window, and neither of us were very happy. I could have just done the pleached trees on one side and knocked them out visually, as it were, but I decided to do them on both sides, because I think when you do something on one side it would look quite asymmetric and quite unbalanced in this walled garden, and when you do it on both sides it also has the advantage that it really sends your view out to the middle instead of going to the grottiest thing there is. So that just focuses the view. I could have used all different species. I chose hornbeam, which was, this is what I've got in front of me, a little hornbeam tree. I could have chosen, I mean, if you go to Pistoia in Italy, you see so many different types of trees, obviously lime trees, magnolias, photinias, hawthorn, about 15 different types or more. And basically you can pleach many different types of tree, but generally if it's used for hedging, then it's fine to pleach because it means it will regrow from older wood that you cut back. So anywhere you cut it, it will just regrow from that. If I just planted hornbeams here and I hadn't pleached them, if they were just free trees, this whole garden would be completely shaded with hawthorn. The hornbeam, the branches would have grown to meet almost because they're massive trees. And I want to have a garden with sun and light. And so that way, by confining the screen to just a single layer really, means that you don't get so much shade and you've still got sun, but you're actually just blocking out what you don't want to see. You also use them because they do look pretty stately and really good, so you can just put them in the garden because you think they look fabulous. They don't have to screen. They are wonderful things, I think. Now, a lot of people say, why do you use hornbeam so much? And I think probably hornbeam is the most commonly used tree for pleaching. And that is because it's very fast growing, it tolerates many conditions. And it does, you can see this one's still got its leaves on in winter. Now, because these are bigger and we've had quite a cold winter, all the leaves are dropped off. But some winters, it does keep these sort of buffy coloured leaves. But anyway, even if it was deciduous, well, and it lost all its leaves like now, because it's such a thick twiggy network, I really can't see much behind it. And also, I'm not in here sunbathing and using the garden so much in the winter, so I'm not so concerned. And always, these will be faster than something evergreen, like Pleached Yew, I think is a fabulous evergreen. If you definitely want an evergreen screen, then Pleached Yew is probably the best. But you can also do cork oak, which is evergreen. You could do evergreen oak, and the magnolia, which I've mentioned before, grandiflora. So there is a wide range that you can choose. So when you use them though, you must be careful because often people use them to screen the neighbours, and the neighbours get very upset because you're blocking all the sun and light out of their garden. So just go easily with it, maybe chat to them and make sure you're both happy with it. But on many cases, when we put in a boundary on to hide the neighbour is equally pleased, but not always, so it's worth checking. So now when I planted these, I just put in trees half this size. I put them in about this side, little transplants that cost me 20p or something, 18p. And I planted them about 2 metres between trees, but I could have gone 1.5, I could have gone closer, I could have gone 2.5, I could have probably gone 3. It just depends how close you want them. It's your decision, it doesn't matter what you choose, just decide what you want and how you're going to do it. And then I put in a double line here because I wanted to make little avenues under them. And initially I actually put the branches across in the middle, so it did form a tunnel going down both sides. I actually took this out last year because it's so much quicker just to cut them without having to go up and down over the archways. Now, so this one is slightly bigger, and I thought I'd just show how I do it. Now, when I did these, I did put in the metal posts. So I put in thin metal posts every other tree. Actually, it's every 3 trees, and then I've trained wires between it. I could have used wooden posts, but metal is always thinner and lighter, so it's not so visually noticeable. And I could have actually done no poles here at all. I could have literally just got the branch and the cane, and then I would have tied that on with a pole, and then as the tree came from the other branch, I would have tied it on. And then you just tie them as they grow along. And so that's how you basically form them. And you decide, when you're growing them yourself from small, you decide where you want the first one to start. If the thing that you're trying to hide or the effect you want can start higher, I could cut all these off and just start higher up at here and pull this one back round there like that if I wanted to. Equally, I could start it lower if I'd got a tree with more feathers on down the side. So you decide where you want it to start and of course where you want to finish. And the finishing point is more, I mean, you really don't want to go any higher than you have to because of the difficulty in pruning when it's higher up. And so I just take out the fascia boards of next door so you can't see those. Now this tree is staked, and I would just cut all those off because you don't need to stake them. A tree of this size you really don't need to stake. So I'd take all those off as a nice thick cane. That is more the sort of cane I would want for trailing them across than the little one I showed. That is a bit spindly, but it was the only one I had in the shed. And you see they use this plastic tubing, and you get it in all different colours, and nurseries use it because it stretches. And so as the branch grows, it doesn't actually rub into the branch. So I have this black tubing. I prefer black. Obviously a nursery doesn't care what it looks like. I do. And it's wonderful stuff. I buy it big quantities, and then it just ties very nicely, and then it will not damage the tree. And so with these, I'll take the ones going in the directions I want, in the planes I want. So I would take that one and that one, and then I would decide where I want the next tier. I did 9 tiers when I did those trees because I wanted it quite dense. So if I was going to, I'd probably use that one for my next tier if I was deciding there. I might try and bend that one round. Yes, I think I would. It's nice and flexible. And then I would take that off probably. So I would then remove, no, I'd probably keep that one for its mate, and I would remove that one like that. I'm not going to do it because I'm actually going to plant this in the wood, I think. So you select them where you want them. Don't worry too much if it doesn't come totally even. You know, when it's like that, you really don't notice how even and regularly spaced they are. You are just trying to get a lovely flat plane of beautiful bushy growth that's going to read. So it's fun to do, and it's not too difficult. And if you don't have to put in the metal stakes, it's fairly inexpensive. It's just canes and twine. Now some people, a lot of people buy them ready done, and you can buy ready done trees of all sorts, and they will cost, if it's bare root, which you can plant in the autumn or right through till about March, then they'll probably cost you a ready formed tree about £90 each. But if you're buying something like ready form, Taxus Picatus, you can pay, I'm just buying a load for a client, and they're about £800 each. So they vary, you know, you pay for what you got, because those yew trees will be probably 20 odd years old, I would think. But then some people plant them another way, and that is they just get an ordinary tree with its branches growing like this, and then they just put them on a frame and they tie them all in on a frame, and so it's very easy to do. They do it with a standard tree. They'd get a big standard tree, the branch going all over the place, and they'd just pull them back, tie them onto the frame, so they'd have branches going at more acute angles, not horizontal, and they still form a very good effect. And those are cheaper to do because they haven't gone through all the training process on the nursery. So here I went for hornbeam, as I said, because they're easy. I did initially put lime in, but because they've got a much bigger leaf, when you cut them with a hedge cutter, which I want to do, I'm not going to prune them with secateurs, it would just take too long, you get lots of cut leaves. And that's another reason I like these beautiful hornbeam. And when they shoot into the growth, they look so beautifully fresh and green. They really are very nice. You see, I've got my tripod ladders, so I use those with this hedge cutter, which I really like. This is my small, very light cordless hedge cutter. I also, because it's quite a long job, so I also try and vary the way I am moving, and so I also use this as well. But you can cut it any angle you want by altering the blade like that, and then you see it will get quite a height. Now you need quite strong upper body muscles to do this, which is why I like to vary it. I'm not going to cut them now because obviously it's the wrong time of year. I don't need to cut them, but this is a nice bit of kit, and then when you're up the ladder you can just bend the arm over and do it much more horizontally, so that's really nice for running along the top. I sometimes wish my legs were a metre longer and it would be easier still. And I have to say, some years when I'm running behind on the work, I would just get in tree surgeons, and often tree surgeons aren't that busy in the summer months, and so you get two strong lads, and they have petrol driven versions of these, and they come and whip through it in a day. And it was, with me, it would take at least 3 times that. So if I'm running shorter time, that's what I tend to do. But these are great bits of kit, and the cattle love it when I do this, because all the trimmings are fed to them, and it's like caviar. They rush over and eat them all up. And when do I do it? I usually wait till about July, when they've got really quite fluffy. I'll come over and we'll cut them and get them really nice and trim. And then if it's been a very wet summer and they've been growing all summer long, then usually by about September, they can look a tad scruffy. So then I'll give them another lighter clipping, and then they look really spruce through the winter months. And I think that's with all this sort of architectural planting, like pleached trees and things, when they look really nice and sharp through the winter months, they really make a garden look wonderful. Even if most of it's sort of deciduous and dying away, they've still got that beautiful outline. You must, of course, check that you haven't got nesting birds whenever you're cutting it in them, because then it's illegal. So if you've got nesting birds, you have to leave it. So that's pleaching. I'm sure loads of people have lots of queries on it. And when you do it yourself from tiny little trees, not only is it much less expensive, it's very satisfying. And really, it doesn't take very long at all, because you're removing all the branches that are going in the wrong direction. So lots more energy is put into the growth. And I think from this sort of size tree to something really making quite a statement probably took about 5 years. And they will always grow faster and establish quicker when you're planting a small tree than a big tree. You always remember that. They will always settle in much, much quicker, and always keep the weeds free from around the base for the first 3 years until the roots are established. Otherwise, other plants, grass or whatever, is taking energy from the tree. So really nurture them for those first 3 years, and you'll find no problems at all. And bare root is usually much better to establish at a small size than container grown. Obviously, when you're bringing in big plants, such as the mature yew trees, they will come usually in those big air pots, or yew tree might be root ball, but and some hornbeams and deciduous are often root balled. But there's masses of choice. They're great fun to do, and I've loved these for many years. They cost me next to nothing, and I think they're a fabulous contribution to the garden.